Hello, welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Lots of things have been happening. It's been a busy kind of week. I think I spoke about this last week a little bit with the last update, but particularly busy week this week for events. There's been a one-day event for Commsverse. Did like half a day really, but all about voice in Teams. So that was good. We had Teams Nation as well. That was like a full day, multi-track, lots and lots of sessions going on there. Loads and loads of content from right across the board, but everything to do with Teams. So that was good. And I spoke at both of those. Really interesting. I spoke actually at both of them really about the same thing, really, which was Azure Communication Services. And sort of how it pertains to Microsoft Teams and the things that you can do inside Microsoft Teams with Azure Communication Services and what you can't do and what the pitfalls are and how you get started. The Commsverse one was more, I guess, kind of maybe a level 100, 200. It was like an overview. Here are the capabilities. Here are the things to be aware of. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. These are the scenarios that get unlocked and stuff like that. The Teams Nation one was a bit more kind of level 300 maybe. Sort of getting into the 400 a little bit. It was, okay, so you're a developer and you want to do those sort of things. Okay, how do you start? Where do you go? And we walked through some code of a demo that I did to do some Teams interop stuff. So from a web page, join a Teams meeting. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, you can check out both of those. I think both of the sessions they were both recorded, and so they're both going to be available. One of the links I've got later on actually is to the Commsverse one, because it was written up by UC Today, who are sponsoring, I think, or at least partnering or something like that. So they have a good write-up about it, which I'll go through later. But yeah, so it took a good amount of time this week. It was good to get back into that, kind of talking and presenting and doing all that sort of stuff. It's great to see the community is still alive and well out there. I think we were very lucky, I think, with our Microsoft Teams community and the development community, so we're really good stuff. All right, let's talk about other new things. And the first one I'm going to dive right into is from the Microsoft Teams developer blog. And it's all about changes that are coming to adaptive cards, and basically sort of make adaptive cards, things that will make adaptive cards look better in Microsoft Teams. So that's good. I like using adaptive cards. I think they're much nicer than just text. There's a lot more you can do with them. And so, I was pleased to see these come through. There's a few new things actually, so it's probably worth talking through them with you. There's 5 things, in fact. So let me share my screen and let's go through them. All right, so the first one is full width adaptive cards. And this is one of those things that if you haven't noticed it, this is probably not going to change your life. But if you have noticed it, this will probably change your life, right? So it's depending on how big your adaptive cards are, it might kind of annoy you, I suppose, in that you can't use the full width that you have in Teams. That's changed now, so adaptive cards can now kind of utilize full width. That's really good. So that's nice to see. So it's just a better use of the estate, if you like, the real estate that the Microsoft Teams has. So that's good to see. Like I say, you'll either just ignore this or not even be aware it was a problem previously, but now you should find that your cards are better laid out, especially if you've got lots of kind of dense information that you were struggling to lay out well before. Go back and check it, because it might look better now. Type ahead support. So this is really good. So again, one of those things that it's a particular use case you may not have come across. It concerns how you put so input boxes. You can put choice sets in input boxes in the schema to sort of force users basically to choose from a number of different options. However, there's no type ahead for that very well. So this is a new thing that's come. So there's now type ahead support. So as you type, obviously it narrows it down. That's good if you've got lots and lots of entries. The kind of previously it was a bit bulky and a bit kind of hard to use and not very nice for a user to use. Now this should be much nicer with type ahead. So that's good to see. Information masking, not quite sure why you'd use this, if I'm honest. It's kind of for masking passwords. I'm not really sure why you'd be putting passwords into a bot like this. I mean, maybe there is a use case I haven't really thought through. I kind of, in my head, like all the auth would be done, with the bot using OAuth, and then you'd use that going forward. I guess maybe there's some legacy stuff, or you just want to, I don't know, mask some information. So yeah, you can do this now. This is specifically on the input that you can mask the input text, just like a web page you would with a password box, whatever. Okay, expanded images, like a stage view for images. This is nice. Again, if you've got lots of images you're displaying, then this will help. Again, just a nice zoomed in version. Nice, better support for images, basically. And then this one, which is really nice. I really like this last one. I think they should have put this one first, really, because it's. I think it's cool. When you use action buttons like action execute or action submit to submit form data and make something happen, it's kind of it's on you to send a message back to the user and say, okay, I've done that, I've got that, whatever. If you don't do that, it's not immediately obvious to the user that anything has happened. And that can be a pain point if developers forget to put it in and forget to kind of send any message back that says, okay, I've received your data, or I'm going to do your thing, or whatever else it is. And actually, it's not always like, it's a bit of a, there's two reasons. Like, first of all, it's not obvious that is what you'd want to do. Like, not all adaptive cards that capture data are sent as part of a conversation that the bot has. Sometimes you might want to throw adaptive cards out to collect data, but you don't want to keep the whole conversation going. You just want to send it out to lots and lots of people. There's no need to keep the conversation going. What you want is the data back as people fill the form in and send it. So actually, it's a massive overhead to have a bot on the end of that just to say thank you. So people leave it out, but then users get confused because there's no visual feedback that you've actually submitted anything. So so this is really nice, actually, just adding a little what looks like a little banner alert when the submission has happened, to just kind of light up a little green bar that says success, just so the user knows something has happened. I think by itself that will really help, and it just means developers don't have to do anything. The really nice thing about this is it's just going to happen. For a developer, there's no additional work to make this happen. It's going to GA in June, and it's just going to happen to all of your existing forms as you submit them. So yeah, really nice. Nice to see that. Yeah, that one particularly, I think, is going to be really good because yeah, it's definitely a pain point. All right. So lots of new things coming for how Microsoft Teams lays out adaptive cards, which is good to see. Yeah, definitely worth looking at adaptive cards. If you've never looked at them and all your interactions you've done with the bot have been just text, then definitely go have a look at adaptive cards. I think you might be surprised. It can really change how you present data as well. Yep, lots of good stuff there. All right. Also happening, there is a updated version of the Microsoft Graph SDK, the .NET SDK, Microsoft Graph .NET SDK. This is version 4. It's now in preview, and it's got some new things in it. So new things, there's a better authentication API. Authentication is always kind of a bit of a challenge. There's lots of things to be aware of. There's lots of things to keep track of. There's lots of different ways you can do it. I think this is an attempt to make it slightly simpler. You can now use a single API, and you can authenticate against Microsoft Graph and also Azure.NET clients as well. So Azure Identity. So the whole thing's based on Azure Identity, and so I haven't looked into the detail of this at all, but it sounds like things are getting simpler. I hope it's not. I haven't looked into it enough to know whether it's like a massive rewriting of like MSAL. I don't think it's a massive rewriting away from MSAL or anything like that. I don't think it's anything particular like that. I think it's just in the API you'll be able to authenticate once, and then it will work for both Azure and Graph, and it doesn't, equally. So that's kind of good, I think. Looking at the release notes, it looks like they're moving away from Newtonsoft JSON to system.text.json. Kind of interesting, I guess. It's always been interesting to me, like, that it's kind of funny in a way that they've stuck and used Newtonsoft JSON for so long as a kind of, it's not a Microsoft thing, but it's so deeply embedded in so many code samples and platform part of the platform, and it's an integral part of the platform really. But it looks like they're kind of moving over to system.text.json, which I guess is good. I mean, I don't know. JSON's JSON. It serializes and deserializes. I don't really care which library I use to do it. I guess using the system text JSON one makes more sense. It's going to be part of the platform. There's less to import. So yeah. Yeah. What else? Easier access to HTTP and graph response headers. That sounds good. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's just going to make it easier for debugging rather than anything else. So I guess that's good for kind of troubleshooting and seeing problems. And then a few other things, just some better experience upgrading dependencies apparently. Yeah, there is a kind of upgrade guide as well for what you have to do. There's an install package command you can use. So it's install package Microsoft.graph, but you need to use that pre-release tag. So tag like dash pre-release to go and get it. And you can get it from NuGet today. And yeah, give it a go. And it's in preview right now. So yeah, just be aware of that. Yeah, so that's happening. That's new. It's good to see the team iterating on it. It means that they still care about it. It's still relevant. They're still kind of moving forward with it, and that's good, I think. What else? Oh, I wanted to show you this actually. So this is kind of a really good new resource. Share my screen. So Jamie Maguire, is a fellow MVP. And he's been doing some really interesting things with Twitter and the Twitter API. So he runs socialopinion.co.uk, which I think I've talked about before. I can't really remember. But basically, he kind of crowdsourced a whole bunch of good blogs, but good podcasts and good YouTube channels. And then used his kind of social opinion tooling to suck up all of that data and turn it into some really nice lists of like techie kind of content, basically. So if you want a really good resource of here are some really good blogs, you can kind of Control F for like whatever it is you're looking for, or whatever, to kind of get the detail from the descriptions or whatever of the people who kind of promoted them. You've got that. You've got the same thing for podcasts. So if you want to listen to some podcasts, you can go and check these ones out. These are sort of going to be specifically techie and kind of in our world around in the kind of Twitter space that emanates out from Jamie, I guess. And the same with YouTube channels. So yeah, really interesting. Really interesting experiment. It's produced these really nice lists of data. So yeah, I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, lots to look at here as well. I mean, just so much, right? Yeah, so I haven't dug into any of these channels yet. I think it'd be kind of interesting to just randomly cherry pick some and see if you learn stuff. I think that might be kind of cool. Yeah, so yeah, I just want to support you with that. I'm going to put a link to the this landing page here, and then you can use these links at the top: blog, podcast, and YouTube. If you want to add your own thing to that, then you just need to add a tweet to one of these threads. These are 3 Twitter threads that he is monitoring with his tooling, and he will then suck it up and get it into those pages. Very cool. What else is happening? So there's a new episode of the All About 365 podcast. So that's Jason Wynn and Steve Goodman, talking about all sorts of things. This week, they're talking about going back to the office, which is interesting. So Microsoft Teams room systems. Yeah, and just generally talking about, for IT administrators, for kind of people whose responsibility it is to kind of keep the tech moving and keep everyone working, what happens as people go back to the office. And it's not going to be 100% of people going back to the office 100% of the time. It's going to be a mixture. So how do you deal with that? How do IT deal with that as people kind of move again from where they've kind of got relatively settled from a kind of network perspective, where everyone being at home, as they move again? How do we make that happen? How do we kind of architect that for success, I guess? So yeah, that's what Jason and Steve are talking through. So if that sounds interesting, if that is one of the challenges that is on your plate coming up in the next few weeks, then you'll probably want to check that out. It's actually a part 2. There is a kind of obviously a part 1 to this as well. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, kind of always worth listening to what those two have to say. Very knowledgeable in their kind of field as well. So yeah, that should all be good. So go check that out if you get a chance. Other stuff that is happening, I don't think there is too much else. I am going to put a link into the UC Today write-up of my Azure Communication Services session that I did earlier this week. It's kind of been written up, which is quite nice. So if you don't want to watch a whole 30-minute video of me talking through Azure Communication Services, you can read the article, the write-up, and then if it still sounds interesting, there's links in there to go and watch the keynote, the on-demand version of the session. So yeah, that might be useful as well, depending on how you want to kind of consume that content. All right, I think that's everything from me. We are getting close to Microsoft Build. We're not there yet. It's the end of the month, isn't it? So it's not going to be next week. It's going to be the week after, I think, or even the week after that. I don't know what we're doing anymore. Yeah, I think when is Build? I want to say it's the 20-something. Let's just check. When is Build? Don't want vertical tabs. May 25th, 26th, and 27th. So it's not going to be on next week's update, but it will be on the update after it. So maybe next week we'll do some look at the sessions and try and predict the future. And maybe I'll run through some of the sessions I'm interested in. And maybe by reading the tea leaves of the session content, we'll be able to figure out if there's any big announcements coming for developers in the Microsoft Teams space. And that will be interesting. All right. Everything from me, I think, for this week. Whatever it is you're doing, take care. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. And I will talk to you again next time.